Hey everyone, let's talk about something that's been making headlines, stirring deep emotions. Welcome to Adare Africa in both Africa and Europe. The return of African kings' skulls from France. This story isn't just about old bones, history, justice, the long shadows of colonialism. So, let me set the scene. For more than a century, museums in France have held the remains of African rulers, kings, warriors, spiritual leaders, taken during the colonial era. Some of these skulls ended up at Paris's Musée de l'Homme, labeled with names and dates, but rarely with dignity. For decades, these remains symbolized power. Who had it, who lost it, and who wrote the story? Now, why were these skulls even in France in the first place? During the 19th and early 20th centuries, France, like many European countries, expanded its empire across Africa. Resistance leaders who fought colonial rule were often killed. Their heads were sometimes sent to France as gruesome trophies, and later studied or displayed as artifacts. This wasn't just about conquest, it was about sending a message. Fast forward to today, and the world is changing. African nations historians and activists have been demanding the return of these remains for years. They say it's time for respect, for closure, and for healing. And now, finally, France is listening. The process isn't simple. Negotiation, research, and ceremony. For example, in 2020, the skulls of 24 Algerian resistance fighters were finally sent home after more than 170 years. In Senegal, the remains of their revered leader, Omar Saido Tall, sparked similar calls for repatriation. These returns aren't just news events, they're national moments. In some cases, families and communities have waited generations to honor their ancestors properly. But there's more to this than just the return of bones. Restoring dignity, rewriting history, and acknowledging the pain of the past. Think about it. For decades, these leaders were remembered in Europe as curiosities. Now, they're being honored as heroes at home. Of course, not everyone sees this as enough. Some say France still holds thousands of African artifacts and remains. Returning a handful is just the first step. Museums' reparations, how we remember history. But for the families and nations receiving their ancestors, these moments matter. These returns are gestures of respect and sometimes a first step toward healing old wounds. They're also reminders that the story of colonialism isn't just relics in a museum. It's living history, shaping lives and identities today. So what happens next? Human remains, art, manuscripts, and cultural treasures. And France and other former colonial powers are having to rethink what's in their museums and how they tell their stories. In the end, the return of these skulls is about more than politics or museums. Respect memory and making things right, even if we can't change the past. Thanks for listening. If you found this story powerful, share your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for listening. If you found this story powerful, share your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going. This is Adare Africa. Thanks for watching.